Welcome to C202 Materials Sessional course. Today we are going to demonstrate experiment number 6, which is determination of compressive strength of concrete using cylindrical and cube specimens. The raw materials used for this test include 1-inch downgrade stone chips as coarse aggregate, coarse silet sand as fine aggregate, and ordinary Portland cement as seen here. So this is our test scheme. We'll be casting cylinders of diameter 4 inch and height of 8 inch and cubes of sides 4 inch. A total of 9 cylinders and 9 cubes will be casted, and 3 specimens will be tested at each test stage. The mixing ratio for this test is 1:2:4. Based on the mixing ratio, the volume of the raw materials required are given in the chart here. So based on the volume of raw materials, we can use 1 safety bucket for coarse aggregate, 0.5 safety bucket for fine aggregate, and 0.25 safety bucket for cement. The aggregates are kept in saturated surface dry condition prior to mixing so that no water intended for hydration reactions is absorbed by the permeable pores of aggregate and complete hydration is possible. Aggregates after thorough mixing to include all size of particles and to maintain a homogeneous mixture are poured into the bucket. To account for air voids, the bucket is filled with more aggregates than its actual height. Same procedure is followed for fine aggregate as seen in the demonstration here. The weight of bucket is stirred to 0. And now slowly from the cement bag we pour the cement into the empty bucket. After the bucket is completely filled, we level up the surface so there is no excess cement, and next we weigh the cement. The weight of cement is found to be 7.56 kg. Now if the water cement ratio is selected to be 0.55, weight of water required will be 4.158 kg. So this is our measured samples for the mixing procedure. So this is the concrete mixture. It has a rotating drum and has provision for controlling the rotating speed. Firstly, we add the total amount of stone chips, and next we add the total amount of sand into the mixture and then start mixing for 2 minutes. 50% of the measured quantity of water is added and the mixture is mixed for 1 minute. All of the cement is added at once. It should be done slowly so that the amount of cement lost as dust is minimized, and then again we mix for 1 minute. The remaining water is next poured into the mixture and the drum is rotated for 1 minute. After that, the mixture should be allowed to rest for 3 minutes, and finally it should be rotated again for 2 minutes, and eventually the mixture is discharged and is now ready for casting provided it meets workability requirements. We perform slump test for workability measurement. The apparatus used for slump test includes a frustum of cone, a slump plate, and a compacting rod. The cone is placed over the slump plate and one should stand firmly as 1/3 of the cone is filled with the mix. The concrete mix is then compacted with 25 evenly distributed strokes of the compacting rod. The cone is then filled up to 2/3 of its volume and again compacted in a similar fashion. It should be rodded 25 times just into the top of the second layer. Finally, the cone is filled to overflowing. It should be rodded. After rodding, we should top up the cone till it overflows, and then we should level up the surface. Any concrete from the base is cleaned and the cone is lifted straight up carefully. As you can see here in the demonstration, a rod is placed across the top of the cone and drop in height of the mix is measured. We can see true slump has occurred and the value is 0.85 inch, which is within acceptable range. So here are the cylindrical and cubic molds. Before placing the mix, the mold should be cleaned and the inside is coated lightly with grease. This is to prevent hardened concrete from adhering into the mold during demolding procedure. We will be using an air vibrator for compaction. First, we are going to prepare the 4 inch by 4 inch cube specimens. Compaction is done in 2 layers. half the depth of the mold is filled with concrete mix, and compaction of first layer is done using an air vibrator as shown in the demonstration. Next, we fill each of the molds up to its full height and again compact the mix. Overcompaction should be prevented to avoid segregation and bleeding of concrete. Since water-cement ratio is low here, such effects will be less. External compaction is then done by hitting the sides of the mold using a hammer, as can be seen in the demonstration. The surfaces are finally leveled up with a steel float. In a similar way to the cubes, we prepared the cylindrical specimens. For 4" by 8" cylinder specimens, compaction is done in two layers. Firstly, the mold is filled up to half of its total depth, and compaction is done using an air vibrator as before. Secondly, the mold is completely overflown with concrete mix, and subsequent compaction follows. Overcompaction should be prevented as before. A hammer is then used for external compaction. If we find out that the mold is not completely filled, additional mix can be added at this stage, and finally the surface is leveled off using a steel float. Each specimen is marked clearly with an identification number, since specimens will be tested at different test ages and there might be different water-cement ratios. After some time, the molds are covered with wet gunny bags and kept undisturbed for 24 hours at a temperature of 27 ± 2 degrees Celsius at 90% relative humidity. After 24 hours of casting, the specimens are removed from the mold. The samples will be tested at 7 days, 14 days and 28 days as mentioned before. Before testing at the specified age, each sample should be cured in saturated lime water in a storage tank so that hydration reactions can occur completely and the specimen achieves the desired strength. All test specimens for a given test stage are broken within the permissible time tolerance as shown here. At the specified test age, samples should be removed from the storage tank and water is wiped off the surface. For cubes, we need to select two parallel surfaces as loading surface, which were in contact with the mold surface to ensure smooth loading surface. The top surface is rough since it was not in contact with mold. Hence, we rotate each of the three specimens by 90 degrees. The other surfaces will be smooth. As for dimensions, we need to measure two sides of the cube at right angles to each other at about mid-height of the specimen. The dimensions are measured using a vernier caliper, which consists of a main scale and a vernier scale for obtaining higher precision. Each main scale division equals 1 mm. We need to count the number of divisions before the vernier scale at the bottom starts. So the main scale reading, as can be seen here, is around 104 mm. Each vernier scale has a vernier constant which is 0.05 mm here. Now we need to identify the mark where the vernier scale matches with the main scale. At mark 2 of vernier scale, which is basically 4 divisions, it matches a mark on the main scale. So the vernier scale reading here is 4 times 0.05, that is 0.2 mm. Hence the length of the cube is 104.2 mm. In a similar way, the other dimension of the cube is measured. For cylindrical specimens, two diameters at right angles to each other are measured at about mid-height of the specimen. If the diameters vary more than 2%, the specimen has to be discarded. The vernier caliper shows a main scale reading of 101 mm. The number of divisions in vernier scale is 10, and therefore the vernier scale reading is 10 times 0.05 mm, which is 0.5 mm. Hence the diameter of the cylinder is 101.5 mm. After hardening, top surfaces of the cylindrical specimens become uneven. In order to provide uniform load distribution over the surface, the cylinders are capped at both ends here using neoprene caps. Sulfur mortar can also be used. So this is a compression testing machine. The display shows the load reading. There is also a loading rate chart which shows the prescribed rate of loading to be followed when testing concrete cylinders. and is based on the anticipated maximum load. The specimen is centered between upper and lower bearing block of compression testing machine. Load is applied until the specimen fails and the maximum load is recorded. The type of fracture is observed. From the classification, we can see our specimen shows similarities to type 4 fracture. The failure type of specimen should also be noted, and in our case, the specimen tested at 7 days shows mortar failure. Specimens were tested at other ages too, and a combined failure was observed at 28 days. Now for testing of cubes, no capping is required since surfaces are smooth and it only needs to be centered properly. Load is applied and the maximum load is recorded, which in this case is 356 kN. The cube is then observed for fracture type, and we can see that the fracture type is cone here. Now can you guess the type of failure here? Now, for a particular water-cement ratio and a mixing ratio, a sample datasheet for compressive strength of cylindrical concrete specimens at different test ages is shown here. The type of failure is also mentioned. A similar datasheet is shown for concrete cubic specimens. Now finally, using the results, for each type of specimen, we need to plot two types of graphs. One is the compressive strength versus water-cement ratio at different ages, and the other one is compressive strength versus age at different water-cement ratios. So this is the final laboratory demonstration of CE202 material sectional course. Thank you everyone.